conclusory statements without evidence to back it, that is not someone who's telling you the truth. That is someone who's lying to you for a political purpose. That is what Democrats are currently doing. And yes, some horseshoe theory Republicans and pseudo-MAGA who are attempting to batter President Trump so as to seize control of the MAGA movement, which is a thing that is happening right now. Coming up, more on President Trump and the Epstein pressure and all the rest of that. Plus, President Trump actually signing some trade deals to avoid that August 1st deadline. First, feeling overwhelmed by back taxes? You're not alone. Maybe you missed that April deadline, or your financial records are all over the place. Whatever the situation, don't put it off any longer. The IRS isn't getting any friendlier. Those penalties, they pile up really quickly. We're talking 5% every month that you don't file, maxing out at 25%, which adds up fast. Here's the thing. You don't have to handle this alone. Tax Network USA specializes in exactly these situations. They've worked with thousands of Americans, employees, small business owners, people who haven't filed in years. Messy books, they've literally seen it all, and they know how to sort it out. What sets them apart is their direct access to IRS programs most people don't even know exist. Plus, they have expert negotiators who actually know how to get results. They'll start with a free consultation to assess your situation. If you qualify, they might be able to reduce or even eliminate what you owe. More importantly, they can protect you from the really scary stuff like wage garnishments and bank levies. The bottom line, don't wait for that next IRS letter to show up in your mailbox. The sooner you act, the more options you will have. Call 800-958-1000 or visit tnusa.com/Shapiro to talk to a real expert at Tax Network USA. Take the pressure off. Let Tax Network USA handle your tax issues. Also, you may have noticed that I'm traveling a lot. My work schedule has been really, really busy. I still need to make time to hit the gym, maintain my health, spend time with the family. Well, when you're younger, you think you can just down a bunch of caffeine and make that happen, but it actually requires peak nutrition to make your life work, and that means eating fruits and veggies throughout the course of the day, wherever that may take me. That's why I'm thankful to have Balance of Nature, which fits right into even the busiest of days. Imagine trying to stuff 31 different fruits and veggies into your gullet every day. That sounds miserable, time-consuming. With Balance, and there are Republicans who are doing this too. And again, Democrats continue to maintain that Trump is hiding something. They know he is not, or at least they suspect he is not, because they literally didn't care about this, like during the entire Biden administration. And there are Republicans who are doing this too. Now, there are questions that certainly remain in the case. Like, for example, where did Jeffrey Epstein get his money? That is an open question. It remains a very open question. Like, there's no question that we have no idea why he got his money from Les Wexner, why he got his money from Leon Black, like why he was being paid these outsized amounts of money. Sure, there can be absolutely credible suspicion on those matters. But that is not the accusation when you say that Trump is covering it up. Meanwhile, there are open questions right now on Ghislaine Maxwell. So the DOJ is now being pressured to re-interview Ghislaine Maxwell. Politico has a rundown on why this is happening. The answer is, of course, because of all the outside pressure and the suggestion that maybe Maxwell knows something she's not talking about or hasn't in the past. According to Politico, Maxwell has apparently never given her version of events to federal prosecutors. During pretrial proceedings in her criminal case, government prosecutors and Maxwell's defense attorneys acknowledged they never even broached the subject of plea negotiations where such an interview might have occurred. Maxwell's attorney claimed at the time plea bargaining was not an issue because her client maintained her innocence. She did decline to testify in her own defense at trial. What could she know that she hasn't told the DOJ? Maxwell herself says nothing, basically. She argued in court papers ahead of her trial that the allegations against her and Epstein were so old, stretching back to the 90s, that there's little reliable information left to disclose. She contended witnesses may have died or their memories faded, and corroborating documents she might be able to rely on to prove her version of events have long been destroyed. That filing includes categories labeled dead witnesses and lost testimony, lost and missing witnesses, witnesses whose memories have failed or corrupted, lost or destroyed records. Well, Maxwell theoretically could name her own memories. What the hell are prosecutors supposed to do with that if there is no supporting evidence of it, especially because Maxwell might lie in order to try and receive some sort of pardon or some sort of deal? So, again, in the absence of information, the internet tends to run wild, and that is not a particularly good thing. And I mentioned there are people on the right who are glomming onto this with both hands. One of those, of course, is Thomas Massie, the representative from Kentucky, who is essentially a declared enemy of the President of the United States, Donald Trump. They don't like each other very much. Speaker Johnson was asking what the hell is going on with Massie, that he keeps signing on to these discharge petitions trying to put pressure on Trump to release documents, in disobedience of FBI regulations and DOJ regulations and the law?
I don't understand Thomas Massie's motivation. I really don't. I don't know how his mind works. I don't know what he's thinking. Thomas Massie could have brought his discharge petition any time over the last 4.5 years. Over the last 4 years of the Biden administration, he could have done that at any time. And now he's clamoring as if there's some sort of timeline on it. it's interesting to me that he chose the election of President Trump to bring this, to team up with the Democrats and bring this discharge petition. So do I have some concern about that? I do.
Okay, and Speaker Johnson absolutely should. And you should too. Because what is the motivation? The answer is the Venn diagram between the people who are very, very exercised about the Epstein case and the people who are very, very upset about President Trump's Iran policy, Ukraine policy, the big, beautiful bill. Those are overlapping circles. And when I say overlapping, I mean that there's a bigger circle of people who think something is missing in the Epstein files and are wondering why Pam Bondi retailed what she did. I understand. That's a big, big circle. But the group of people who do not like Trump's policy have decided to go right in the center of the Epstein circle and just sit there and build a campfire. Because their goal is actually to undermine President Trump's agenda. They don't like his agenda. They're glomming onto the Epstein thing in order to undermine his credibility with the base and his credibility personally, so as to try and take control of MAGA away from President Trump. It is pretty clear that this is what's going on right now. And by the way, it's not as though everyone who promoted Russiagate is out of the government, even now. I mean, we're talking about deep state people who have been longtime government officials who have been involved with this sort of stuff. According to Luke Rosiak, reporting for the Daily Wire, quote, a top lawyer for President Donald Trump's
Never
NSA
underestimate
previously
the
worked for
power
Senate
of the
Democrats on their
Scouts
discredited
Code.
probe attempting to tie Trump to Russia, personally urged for Trump to be permanently banned from social media for staging an insurrection, attacked Republicans for opposing a crackdown on disinformation, and defended the treatment of Trump aides Carter Page and Michael Flynn at the hands of the intelligence state. April Falcon Doss is the current general counsel for the NSA. She worked as an NSA intelligence lawyer from 2003 to April 2016 when she took a job at a private law firm. But a few months into President Trump's first term, she took a high-level job working for Senator Mark Warner of Virginia on the Senate Intelligence Committee, investigating supposed Russian interference in the 2016 election. Pretty amazing stuff. I mean, who did the hiring on this one? I want to know the answer on this one. Apparently, June 2022, the NSA, again under Joe Biden, rehired Doss in a top role without announcing or acknowledging the hire because it didn't want to stir up a hornet's nest among Capitol Hill Republicans, according to the record. That's because in the interim, Democrats, experts, and intel officers had decried it as improper and ultimately blocked it when Trump had attempted to name a Republican House Intelligence Committee staffer to the same exact role. Still pretty unbelievable that this person has a job under the Trump administration. I would imagine that that is not going to be the case for very long after Luke's article here. Meanwhile, an actual piece of scandal. According to the New York Post, the FBI failed to provide key thumb drives in the Clinton email probe. This is according to the DOJ watchdog file.
Minions have spawned.
According to the New York Post, the FBI barely glanced at potentially crucial evidence in its investigation of Hillary Clinton's use of a private email server while she was Secretary of State, according to a portion of a watchdog report made public on Monday. A confidential source gave thumb drives to the FBI that contained State Department data acquired via cyber intrusions, including emails from President Obama and others, according to a declassified appendix to a June 2018 DOJ Inspector General report. But the feds declined to comprehensively analyze those drives due to concerns about individual data caught up in the hack, despite an internal draft memo concluding it was necessary to assess the national security risks pertaining to Clinton's private server use. That's unbelievable. Essentially, it means that the FBI, when they were investigating how Hillary Clinton was handling her emails and mishandling highly classified information, the FBI basically decided to ignore thumb drives showing that she had basically exposed emails from people including President Barack Obama, apparently. That report was penned by then DOJ Inspector General Michael Horowitz, who holds the same position at the Federal Reserve Board and the Consumer Finance Protection Bureau. During that 2016 campaign cycle, the FBI Cyber Division had sought to obtain access to the hard drives to conduct targeted searches for information relevant to the Clinton probe, and they were rebuffed. They were told no. Then FBI Deputy Director Andrew McCabe asked then U.S. Deputy Attorney General Sally Yates in a memo if he could refer to the drives for the Bureau's probe of Russian interference in the 2016 election, and that was shot down. So, essentially, they didn't do basic investigative work, and they left key pieces of evidence on the cutting room floor, according to Senator Chuck Grassley. Grassley said the Comey FBI's negligent approach and perhaps intentional lack of effort in the Clinton investigation is a stark contrast to its full-throated investigation of the Trump-Russia collusion hoax, which was based on the uncorroborated and now discredited Steele dossier. You know, it was on the basis of that, by the way. It was on the basis of Comey not wanting to look at what was actually in those thumb drives, at least partially, that he decided to dismiss the case against Hillary Clinton and claim that there was no violation of law. Another notable detail in the appendix is that the FBI stumbled upon Russian language intelligence, alleging that then U.S. Attorney General Loretta Lynch and Comey were interfering in the Clinton email investigation to help the Democratic and Republican presidential candidates, respectively. That intel also included claims that the then DNC chairwoman, Representative Debbie Wasserman Schultz, had communicated with two individuals who worked at the Soros Open Society Foundation and told them she was confident the FBI did not have evidence against Clinton because data was removed from the mail servers just in time. At the very least, there's a lot of information here that basically looks like the FBI and DOJ decided to ignore because it was inconvenient to Hillary Clinton in 2016. She, of course, was let off the hook by James Comey over at the FBI. So that is an amazing, amazing story. The other story that is being retailed by Tulsi Gabbard is, frankly, less amazing. So recall yesterday on the program, we talked about Tulsi Gabbard suggesting that the Obama administration had specifically gone back on an intelligence community report. That intelligence community report had said that there was no manipulation of the electoral tool of like actual voting machines, for example. And the allegation by Tulsi Gabbard is that the Obama administration basically went back on that and then tried to rewrite it to suggest that there was Russian interference. And I read that entire thing on the air just a couple of days ago. Again, she had claimed that in the run-up and immediate aftermath of the 2016 election, Obama intelligence officials, including then DNI James Clapper, took the position, according to Andrew McCarthy, that Russia was probably not trying to influence the election by using cyber means. But later, as top Obama administration officials huddled and executed rapid-fire completion of the ISQ, she says they changed their tune to try and sandbag Trump with a bunch of Russian interference memes and nonsense. Now, as we talked about, again, a couple of days ago, there's no question the Obama administration, from the very earliest days of the Fusion GPS Steele dossier scandal, were looking for a rationale for linking the Trump campaign to a supposed Russian collusion scheme. There is no doubt that was the case. They were maximizing everything. They were issuing illegal FISA warrants against Carter Page. They were using the Steele dossier as the basis for things like the FISA surveillance warrant. And then they were leaking that into the public view. Now, all of that is well substantiated and scandalous in the extreme. Gabbard is saying she has something new, and that the new thing is that basically the Obama administration and Obama himself changed an intelligence community ruling in order to suggest that there was Russian interference with actual election infrastructure. But that's not actually what the document said. What it said is that the Obama administration concluded there was no hacking of election infrastructure, and that later statements had to deal with Russian interference in the election. Now, was there Russian interference in 2016? I mean, there certainly was memery online. It was minimal, as we talked about. It was not particularly effective. And Russia always attempts to interfere in American elections. They do this all the time. I'm old enough to remember when they interfered on behalf of Barack Obama. You'll remember in 2012, Barack Obama literally sat next to Dmitry Medvedev and was caught on a hot mic saying that if Vladimir could simply cool his heels, cool his jets for the next couple of months, we'll have something to talk about on the other side of the election. Okay, so I'm not sure exactly what the DNI is attempting to accomplish with this sort of new accusation. She says that there are more Russia hoax documents that will be released later this week. We can hope they substantiate her accusations better than the current document.
He's saying that none of this makes any sense, that this is a distraction. What do you say to that?
It's the art of deflection coming from former President Obama, as well as his friends who are still in Congress today, and Senator Warner and Congressman Jim Himes, really all basically saying that exact same statement, which doesn't actually address the issue that was revealed in great detail in the over 100 documents that we released last week, and the documents that we will be releasing later this week that point to the undeniable fact that you laid out in your introduction to this segment.
Okay, so again, did the Obama administration try to interfere on behalf of Hillary Clinton and against Donald Trump in the 2016 election? Yes. Was there violation of law? If there was violation of law, it was on the part of FBI directors, deputy FBI directors, and all the rest. The president is sort of immune from a lot of this sort of stuff simply because he has an enormous amount of executive power to have these sorts of conversations. Right? This was a Supreme Court decision that actually recently came out with regard to President Trump. You'll recall that there was a Supreme Court decision that suggested that there is executive decision-making that lies out of the domain of, for example, lawsuits. And this probably falls into that particular category. So I asked my friends and sponsors over at Perplexity, what did the Supreme Court recently rule about executive immunity? And how would it protect President Obama with regard to accusations his IC report was skewed? Well, as Perplexity says, on July 1st, 2024, the U.S. Supreme Court issued a landmark decision in Trump versus United States regarding presidential immunity from criminal prosecution. The key points of the ruling are absolute immunity. Presidents are absolutely immune from criminal prosecution for actions taken within their core constitutional powers. They are also presumptively immune for official acts. Those would be actions taken as president that are neither purely personal nor at the core, and there is presumed immunity, and you can try to overcome the presumption. So, when it comes to the IC report accusations, would the Supreme Court ruling shield Trump? Well, again, as Perplexity notes, if the actions involve official duties like overseeing, ordering, or approving IC assessments or reports while acting as president, President Obama would enjoy at a minimum a presumption of immunity from criminal prosecution. And absolute immunity could apply if the conduct was seen as a direct exercise of the president's core constitutional authority, like managing the IC. So, very difficult presumption to overcome for criminal prosecution. Obama is responding via his spokesperson, quote, out of the respect for the office of the presidency, our office does not normally dignify the constant nonsense and misinformation flowing out of this White House with a response, but these claims are outrageous enough to merit one. Because our allegations are ridiculous, a weak attempt at distraction. Nothing in the document issued last week undercuts the widely accepted conclusion that Russia worked to influence the 2016 presidential election, but did not successfully manipulate any votes. Now, again, there's another widely accepted conclusion that really Trump is correct to hit President Obama over. And that is the widely accepted conclusion that Obama's entire team was essentially incepting into being a collusion scandal between Trump's team and Russia that supposedly turned the nature of the election. And was complete with, again, falsely issued FISA warrants, as well as the mainlining of absolute nonsense via the Steele dossier, which was a Clinton campaign compendium, and somehow ended up spurring a full intelligence investigation. It is kind of fun to watch the Pod Save America boys get really mad about this, I will say. John Favreau came out and suggested that if you don't like it, you can go arrest Barack Obama. Well, I mean, let's just put it this way. It's really Democrats who have been attempting to arrest prior presidents of recent vintage. And they tried to do this to Donald Trump many, many, many times, like a lot of times. So I feel you don't have like a moral high horse to stand on so much here, because I don't remember you speaking out about any of that as an abuse of justice. The Pod Save America bros are in a bad mood, however, because Hunter Biden attacked them the other day.
When it comes to the attacks on Hunter himself, like, okay, what if we just stipulate for the hypothetical, like, yes, okay, all your business dealings were above board and legal, all your paintings were purchased by art lovers who loved the product and didn't know your name. Trump is worse. You were on the board of Burisma because of who you were. And that is what people think about Washington. And it was part of the problem. And like, there's some other weird, like, he said he blames the debate on the Biden staff, saying they gave him Ambien on his foreign trip. But like, Biden got back from the G7 on June 14th. The debate was June 27th. A lot of if Ambien was the issue, like, I don't think it's Ambien, it's age.
Also,
right?
like, he was tired, so they gave him Ambien?
Also, like, just...
Wow, I'm amused. The Pod Save America boys are now telling the truth about Joe Biden after spending a very long time defending Joe Biden's absolute senility. But it's only when they are threatened, of course, that they speak up loudly and proudly against the corruption inside the Biden administration. Solid stuff there, guys. Really, really proud of you for your honesty, your sudden bout of honesty. Meanwhile, I know a lot of people were worried, of course, about the tariffs. I was one of them, honestly. Like, I was worried at the very beginning about the tariffs, and then President Trump backed off a lot of it because he moved control of the tariff talks essentially from Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick over to Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. And so it is not a surprise that a bunch of deals have now been announced. President Trump announced yesterday a trade deal with Japan. Here he was.
Keep dreaming, buddy.
But I just signed the largest trade deal in history. I think maybe the largest deal in history with Japan. And that was done with Japan. They had their top people here, and we worked on it long and hard, and it's a great deal for everybody. I always say it has to be great for everybody. It's a great deal. A lot different from the deals in the past, I can tell you that. But we're doing really well as a country. We're strong. We have a lot of money flowing in. The tariffs are kicked in better than anybody other than me and a few of the people in the room thought could happen, Howard and Scott. And I just want to thank you. You've been unbelievable allies, because you're really allies. That's what you've been, and we appreciate it.
So, what exactly is the deal? Well, apparently, the massive deal includes reciprocal tariffs of 15% on the country's exports to the United States. Auto duties will reportedly be lowered to that level as well. Japan is going to supposedly invest $550 billion in the United States. According to President Trump, the United States will receive 90% of the profits that counter any sort of trade deficit. Trump says Japan will, quote, open their country to trade, including cars and trucks, rice, and certain other agricultural products, and other things, and that it would create hundreds of thousands of jobs. Japanese Prime Minister Shigeru Shiba, who is up for re-election for a couple of days and so wants to get this off the table, said auto tariffs on Tokyo will be lowered to 15% from the current 25% levied across countries. Auto exports to the United States are a major cornerstone of Japan's economy. They make up 28.3% of all shipments in 2024, according to customs data. So, again, that is higher than it was. However, it is much lower than it could have been. Shortly after Tuesday's announcement, Japan's top trade negotiator, Ryose Akazawa, said mission accomplished in a post on X. So that trade deal is designed, again, to strengthen the ruling coalition in Japan just before an election. The stock market popped in Japan on the basis of the announcement. Jeremy Schwartz, the global CIO at asset manager Wisdom Tree, told CNBC's Squawk Box Asia the size of the market reaction meant the market got pessimistic on how things were going, and that the goal is to drive, again, more direct foreign investment in American product. So that's a big win for President Trump. Another big win for President Trump, an announcement of a trade agreement with Indonesia. According to President Trump, it is agreed Indonesia will open its market to American industrial and tech products and agricultural goods by eliminating 99% of their tariff barriers. The United States of America will now sell American-made products to Indonesia at a tariff rate of 0, while Indonesia will pay 19% on all of their products coming into the United States of America, the best market in the world. In addition, Indonesia will supply the United States with precious critical minerals, also in big deals with tens of billions of dollars to purchase Boeing aircraft, American farm products, and American energy. The deal's a huge win for our automakers, tech companies, workers, farmers, ranchers, and manufacturers. Again, whether you like the tariffs or you don't like the tariffs, this is better than what the alternative would have been if the deal didn't get cut. Again, as a free trader myself, I'm not generally in favor of the idea that we are tariffing Indonesian goods at 20% while they tariff us at 0. It seems to me that that's a tax on American consumers. With that said, is that a lot better than it was going to be? If no deal had been reached, the answer there is yes. Another deal has been announced, also with Philippines. According to President Trump, the Philippines is going open market with the United States with 0 tariffs. The Philippines will pay a 19% tariff. In addition, we will work together militarily. It was a great honor to be with President Ferdinand Marcos. He is a highly respected person in his country, as he should be. He is a very good and tough negotiator. So, again, there are two ways of viewing all this. One is, do we really need a trade war with anybody but China at this point? And I've made that case before. The other is, the worst aspects of the trade war are, in fact, being avoided by the Trump administration thus far. Is that going to reshore massive manufacturing in the United States? I somehow doubt it. Is it going to be a lot better than it would have been if we had maintained those Liberation Day standards? Absolutely. And again, you can see the markets reacting to all of that. Pretty sanguine about all of that. The markets were up 180 points yesterday, the Dow Jones Industrial Average. The S&P 500 was also up a little bit yesterday. The markets have baked into the cake the idea, I think already, that President Trump is going to cut a bunch of these deals. Now, where President Trump could go astray is the attempt to go after Jerome Powell. He has already said he's not going to, the head of the Federal Reserve. I think it would be a mistake for President Trump to do so. With that said, he still seems to be thinking about it, at least a little bit. So he is ripping on Jerome Powell's allowance of the renewal of the federal building, the rebuilding of a lot of the federal building, which is going to cost something like $2.7 billion. Now, again, here's my question. Unless Jerome Powell is owner of one of the contractors who's making money handling on all of this, it's hard for me to understand exactly why Powell would get anything out of a massive rebuild of the Fed sufficient to justify his removal, but maybe that figure is.
It's inconceivable, I know the Fed very well, that they can be spending $2.7 billion to build a building. They don't do anything. They just, it's the greatest job. You show up one day, a half a day, you make a little speech, the economy's doing well, the economy's not doing well, we're going to raise interest. And he's got it wrong. That's why I call him too late. T-O-O, too late.
So what you're seeing right now is some of the Republicans in Congress trying to I guess, provide the pretext for President Trump to go after Powell if he wants to. Pushing this, Representative Anna Paulina Luna, who is from Florida, referred to Powell to the Justice Department on an accusation he lied under oath to Congress last month about the building project. He told senators some of the more controversial parts of the renovation plan, like a VIP dining room or rooftop beehives, aren't being built, although they were included in the original zoning application. I mean, is that going to be the criminal case against Jerome Powell here? And that's going to... Here's the question. Why is that good for President Trump? Let's say he gets rid of Powell. Is that going to be good for the markets? The answer there, of course, is no. It will not be particularly good for the market. Now, good news for President Trump. He continues to push forward on many of the signature issues, including his signature issue with regard to transgender. No men in the women's sport. According to the New York Times, the United States Olympic and Paralympic Committee quietly changed its eligibility rules on Monday to bar transgender women from competing in Olympic women's sports, and now will comply with President Trump's executive order on the issue. This, of course, makes perfect sense. You don't want the men competing with the ladies. This is perfectly obvious. It was obvious to everyone. It's so obvious, in fact, that Democrats are starting to run away from their prior radicalism on this issue. That includes Rahm Emanuel, the former Obama chief of staff, who would love to run for president in 2028. Here was Rahm Emanuel.
Can a man become a woman?
Can a man become a woman? No.
Thank you.
No.
That's so easy. Why don't more people in your party just say that?
Because I'm now going to go into a witness protection plan.
So, Rahm Emanuel moving away from it. Gavin Newsom flirting with moving away from it. Because, again, this is such a losing issue for the Democrats. Joining us on the line to discuss the U.S. Olympic Committee barring transgender women from women's competition is my friend Clay Travis, founder of Actic and host of the Clay Travis and Buck Sexton Show. Clay, great to speak with you.
Good to see you as always, Ben.
Well, Clay, it looks like the winning continues on this issue. It is incredible how the vibe has shifted, as the kids say, on this issue over the course of the last 4 or 5 years. I'm old enough to remember when people were getting kicked off of various social media platforms just for saying that men should not play against women in sports. And now you have the U.S. Olympic Committee saying that they are not going to allow men to play against women. What do you make of it?
I think that what Donald Trump's victory did was enable cowards to blame him for decisions that they know they should have made years ago. And I really think that's what all of this represents. I mean, University of Pennsylvania didn't know that a 6'3" dude had an advantage that he used to swim on the men's team and switched over to the women's team. They knew all of this. They were just afraid of bearing the onus themselves. And they're looking for someone to come and save them. And I actually think one of the really interesting decisions going forward is what are Democrats going to do about this? Because next year, we're going to hear the Supreme Court decision. I would expect it'll go 6-3, that you can say, hey, compete against your biology, compete against the name, the gender on your birth certificate. And then Democrats and crazy leftists will have a decision. Do they say, oh, that's just the Trump Supreme Court, we don't like it, but let's just go ahead and pretend this issue doesn't exist anymore? Or will they double, triple, quadruple down on crazy? Will they take the off-ramp that the Supreme Court and Trump have given them? Or will they make this an issue that prevails and continues into 2028? I actually don't know, but I think that's where we're headed.
Yeah, Clay, I agree with you. It'll be interesting to see what Democrats do. It seems like the smarter Democrats are already attempting to move beyond this issue. At the very least, they're trying to have the baby on it. You saw Governor Gavin Newsom from California do this publicly when he suggested that men should not play women's sports, and then, of course, use the laws to essentially allow men to play in women's sports. Rahm Emanuel, who clearly wants to run for president in 2028, he said, played on the show a little while ago, he's going to have to go into witness protection because he believes that men and women are playing different sports. Seth Moulton, who we've had on the show, Democrat from Massachusetts, ripped up and down for suggesting that men are not women, women are not men. But the dam is breaking, and you can see it inside the Democratic Party. It seems to me that they want to get beyond this issue because it is such a terrible issue.
Yeah, and also because men, white, black, Asian, Hispanic, if you play sports or you're a fan of sports at all, this is a non-negotiable issue. I don't think any dads out there, I don't think any men who played high school, college, or pro sports, every NFL locker room, every NBA locker room, they know this is a joke. And Democrats are looking at themselves hemorrhage male support. And I think they recognize they have to step off the crazy train And one way to do that is what Rahm Emanuel did, what Gavin Newsom has tried to do, what Seth Moulton, I think, who represents, of all places, the Salem witch trial area of Massachusetts. I mean, there is definitely a witch trial component to this for Democrats. I think they're saying we can't win elections and stand for this, and I think other people will get in line. Remember, even according to the New York Times, 67% of Democrats disagree with men and women's sports. This is actually a huge majority issue even for them. They're just all cowards. They won't admit it.
I think it's such a big issue for them, especially because for the Democrats, I think that all normies look at them and they say, we're not even going to listen to you on any other issue that you have something to say if you continue to maintain this totally insane position. Because frankly, you're nuts. It is one thing to make an argument about tax policy or about Medicare or Medicaid or foreign policy. It is another thing to argue the patently, obviously stupid notion that men are women and women are men interchangeably with placing body on. And I think that the huge majority of voters look at Democrats, and this is like a gateway issue for them. It's like, I will not even look at the rest of what you have to say if you maintain that.
I can't tell you the number of people that I know from the world of sports who have come up to me and said privately, you're 1,000,000,000% right on this, but because of the politics inside of my company, whether it's an ESPN, whether it is even a Washington Post, a New York Times, where they have men covering sports, they all think it's ludicrous, and yet they feel compelled as a member of that party to try and stay in good graces. They're afraid of getting athwart that issue. But I actually think we're seeing a major cultural shift, and I think basically men across the board, like I said, I think this is a white, black, Asian, Hispanic. Ben, I'm sure you read the article, the They Them ad, which I think was probably the most influential ad that Trump ran. When they said it was really interesting was it moved white women, and for people who don't remember, it was Trump's for you, Kamala's for they, them. It moved white women in his favor, many of whom have daughters that they're traveling to sporting events with. It also moved Hispanic and black men in his favor. So I think that speaks to the degree to which an ad like that crosses over so many identity politics lines and just registers for sane people, regardless of what they might think, as you mentioned, on tax policy or other issues with which we might disagree.
So Clay, I would be remiss if I didn't ask you about the other women's sporting issues of the day. Obviously, the WNBA is having a bit of a moment right now, specifically because of Caitlin Clark. And they seem to have created this sort of WWE situation between Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark, or the rest of the league and Caitlin Clark. I don't know if the WNBA is creating it, or if just all the women hate Caitlin Clark because they're being catty and petty. But what do you make of the status of the WNBA? Do you think there's any future here, or is this sort of a flash in the pan because Caitlin Clark is interesting and popular, and a whole narrative world has now been built up around her?
Yeah, so I like to look at Caitlin Clark in the historical context of sport for those of us out there who are big fans. Sometimes you catch proverbial lightning in a bottle, and your sport can go to a different level because one particular athlete is so transcendently popular. Think about Tiger Woods in golf. Golf had fans, but Tiger took it to a level we've never seen before. Venus and Serena Williams did for women's tennis. Sometimes you get it for a very short period of time. Ronda Rousey did it for the UFC for women fighters. Everybody suddenly cared about it. Right now, Caitlin Clark is that. What's different is UFC, PGA, WTA, they were all smart enough to recognize that they had an incredible asset, and it was going to make everybody else richer. Doesn't mean that it was perfect when they introduced these new athletes, but they were smart enough to get in line and say, hey, let's all pull in the same direction. The WNBA has taken this incredible golden goose, and they've tried to strangle it. And I don't understand. Now, here's the challenge. Caitlin Clark has not been very healthy in season 2. She's missed about half the games. She is more valuable than the entire league, Ben. I've never seen this ever. If you told me right now, Clay, you can buy stock in Caitlin Clark or the WNBA, I would buy stock in Caitlin Clark. And I wonder whether in a couple of years she might decide to just say see ya to the league based on how they're treating her, found her own league with 5 or 6 teams, and really unlock the value that truly she has brought to women's basketball. They don't have women's basketball fans, they have Caitlin Clark fans. My theory, and I know you've got kids, I think there's a lot of dads out there that just want to share sports with their daughter, and she is an accessible, not threatening way to watch women's sports with your daughter very clean cut, very positive role model. A lot of dads, I think, would like their daughters to grow up like Caitlin Clark. And I think the WNBA resents her for it. I think the fact that she's white is an issue for her. I think the fact that she's straight in what is both a black and lesbian majority league. And I think they resent her for the popularity she's brought to the league, which is counterintuitive, counterproductive, but I don't know how they're going to reconcile this.
Well, Clay, they are definitely not vitiating any of the stereotyps about female cattiness with the way they are treating
That is
Caitlin
100%
Clark
true.
right
Yes.
now. It is incredible. If you wished to justify all criticisms of the WNBA, both athletically and then in terms of the feminist notions of the WNBA, they're doing an amazing job of it, that I have to say. Well, Clay Travis, founder of Outkick, host of the Clay Travis and Buck Sexton Show. Check out all of his work. Clay, appreciate the time. Great to talk to you.
Keep up the good work, Ben. Have a good summer.
Alrighty, folks. The rest of the show continues now. Ozzy Osbourne has passed away. We pay tribute. Crazy tribute. Actually, I like Ozzy. You know. Also, more Fallout from season 4 not being paid. Remember, in order to watch the be a member, if you're not a member, become a member and use code Zero. Check out the 2 or 3 of them. Click that link to join us.
An enemy has been slain. Enemy double kill. Ace.
Not a word. We're in this together. Not the biggest dragon, but the best. Aw, look at your little arms. Hold on to your harness.
An ally has been slain. An enemy has been slain. Your team has destroyed a turret. Enemy double kill. An ally has been slain.
Get that.
Your turret has been destroyed. Your inhibitor has been destroyed. An ally has been slain. Enemy double kill. Enemy kills. Your turret has been destroyed. Enemy triple kill. Shut down. You have slain an enemy. destroyed. Your inhibitor has been destroyed. Your turret has been destroyed. Aced.
Don't look at me like that. Are all dragons this heavy? It's scary what comes out of you.
An ally has been slain. Double kill. An ally has been slain. An enemy has been slain.
We'll eat later. Stop pouting.
Your inhibitor is respawned. Your team has destroyed the turret. Your team has destroyed a turret. Your team has destroyed a turret. Your inhibitor is restored.
That'll work.
Your inhibitor has been destroyed.
Keep dreaming, buddy.
Enemy triple kill. Ace.
Wrong orbit.
Your turret has been destroyed. Aced.
That's great.
Enemy has been slain.
Good job.
Killing spree. An enemy has been slain.
Just rip them off too. This was crazy. Freaking terrible name. What you doing there, I say? Can be doing that. It's gotta be the ugliest icon set. It's freaking horrible. Make everybody look like a freaking comic book meth addict. Silly.
I was drinking so much alcohol, almost a handle of vodka a day. And alcohol is the most destructive drug, not just to your body, but it puts you in more danger than any other drug that I've ever experienced. And then you add on top of that the amount of crack that I was using at the time. And crack cocaine, in terms of your physical health, is not as dangerous as the situation that you put yourself in to be able to obtain it.
How do you get crack?
One of the things I don't want to do is give a how-to to any moron like myself that may think that it's a good idea. But crack cocaine is a, I am fully aware when I'm talking about it in relationship to my own experience with it. It is still a shocking thing for most people, because we have been fed this perception of crack cocaine. It's more than just a drug. It's more than, like, if you say meth or if you say heroin or if you say cocaine. It comes with a whole bunch of different baggage. And because of that, places that you can go get it are some of the most dangerous places in whatever location you happen to be in. And it's everywhere. Mainly for that reason, I learned how to make my own. Have you read, I'm going to pretend like you're not getting attacked by a bee right now.
Hey, it's all right.
Keep my train of thought.
Without them, we would all die.
Trying to, by the way, that's true too. Birds aren't real, but bees are.
Oh, before you leave, can you turn that document into a PDF for me? Thanks.
At 5:30 on a Friday? Actually, wait. I think it'd be easier to use Scratch.
Good morning, America and the world. My name is Andrew Callahan, the host and creator of Channel 5, the largest independent crowd-funded newsroom in the United States. The following interview is with Hunter Biden, the controversial, storied son of former President Joe Biden, who issued a full and unconditional pardon for Hunter during his final month in office, shortly after Hunter was found guilty of tax-related crimes and being an illegal drug user in possession of a firearm. Hunter has yet to speak to the media about this pardon and hasn't done a televised interview in years. In fact, aside from a very limited and controlled press run to promote his new book, Beautiful Things of 2021, Hunter hasn't given a single statement to the media, especially in regard to the laptop scandal that was a crucial component in the Stop the Steal movement back in 2020, wherein millions of Trump supporters alleged that Joe Biden was being controlled and manipulated by nefarious foreign actors who leveraged their business connections with Hunter to peddle influence in the White House. As I mentioned, this alleged intel connects to private messages and emails that were found on a laptop that Rudy Giuliani and his lawyer claim Hunter left in a computer repair shop in Delaware sometime in 2020, where after the laptop repairman, John Paul Mac Isaac, pictured here, essentially leaked its contents to the world. Along with evidence of alleged corruption, tax evasion, and influence peddling, what was also leaked from the laptop is nearly a decade of private photos of Hunter in the thralls of crack cocaine addiction. All right, in today's interview, we're going to discuss the laptop, the 2020 election, crack cocaine, and more, with an emphasis on recovery and away from gossip and family drama. And by the way, if you'd like to listen to or download an audio version of this interview, I've uploaded a crispy WAV file to the podcast feed of our long-form program, 5Cast, which is available now on Spotify, Apple Music, and Amazon. All right, let's get into it. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, Hunter Biden. All right, Mr. Biden, thank you so much for your time, man. I really appreciate it. How long has it been since you've done a formal sit-down interview?
You know, it's been a while. Been a long while. I had a conversation with Jamie Harrison, who's the former chair of the DNC, who's a great friend, loyal. And I was down in South Carolina for other things and kind of like family down there. So I sat down with him and talked about some stuff, but nothing like this.
What made you feel like now's the time for a official, unedited long form?
Well, I don't know when it is the right time or not the right time. I'm an admirer of your work, and we have a mutual acquaintance. It didn't take me much to agree to be really interested. I think the work that you've done is some of the most interesting commentary on the moment we're living in. The expanded moment that we seem to be continuing to live in of from 2020 on. I hadn't seen much of the earlier work that you had done, but I do know that I at least appreciate the sincerity with which you approach everything that you do.
I appreciate it. You said 2020 on. Do you feel like that's the year the world kind of went crazy?
No. I think that's the year that we all kind of woke up to the realization that things are crazy. But no, I think that they've been going crazy for a while. And I don't know whether crazy is the right word. I think that I don't know how interested people are in my my take on why I think the world is a little bit crazy right now.
Well, I think there's probably millions of people out there who just want to know how you're doing.
Personally, I'm great. I tell everybody, and Melissa gets kind of upset with me because it has been obviously a difficult time. You know, the past 5 years have not, at least from any outsider's perspective, been fun. But for me, as a person in recovery, and being able to maintain that recovery through this and stay clean and sober throughout it, so one thing I allow myself to take some pride in. And I know about my life is that I survived almost certain death. And I mean, I don't know if you read my book, but I'm pretty transparent about it. Having survived that hell kind of prepared me to be able to make it through kind of the public humiliation that, I don't know any other way to put it, that I've experienced over the past close to 5 years now. And it doesn't seem to stop, but I'm more grounded in who I am and what matters to me and what I'm grateful for on a daily basis than I've ever been in my life. And physically, I'm in hell of a lot better shape than I was since my last drink or drug 6 years ago.
So it's been 6 years?
Yeah, just over 6 years.
When you say you almost died, can you kind of give us some more context?
I was a drinker, and at the end, my addiction had progressed so much that it was potentially deadly on a daily basis. The thing that was the most concerning and the most real about, facing death was in actuality the alcohol. Once you fall into that lifestyle, and I wouldn't call it a lifestyle because there's no life to it at all, you enter a completely different world in which you're living kind of completely outside of the bounds of any communal norms. I don't know. It's a scary place to be. And I met some of the most truly heroic, astounding, thoughtful, kind people that I've ever met in my life that are living, lives of quiet desperation, not quiet, very loud desperation, but even in that, found space in their hearts for empathy and kindness. And I've met some of the most awful, predatory people that I've ever experienced in my life.
So you feel that the thralls of addiction do oftentimes swallow up very genuine, earnest people, but at the same time, that underbelly is home to a specific breed of evil as well? One
of the things that I've realized is that addiction is one of the most universal conditions. I don't know many people that have not been impacted by it in some way, whether it's addiction to drugs or addiction to behaviors. They have the same dilatory effect on not just you, but more importantly, on your immediate community, your family, and then it just spirals outward. And I don't know anybody that hasn't been impacted by drugs and alcohol in a really significant way, or at least a way in which it's created trauma in their own personal lives and the lives of those that they really love. And so while it's universal, it's something that we rarely talk about. And it's kind of the way in which we treat drug use, it's something that someone else is doing, and that someone else happens to be your brother, your sister, your mom, your dad, yourself, your coworker, and it only becomes a problem when it becomes a problem for you.
Do you think that you would have been treated differently by the media if your addiction was to an opiate or perhaps methamphetamine as opposed to crack, which kind of has a racialized context to it?
Well, maybe, I don't know. Because it depends upon what media you're talking about. Because what is the media? I think it was just an added bonus for them that they could say crack addict and everybody would go, oh my God, he's a monster. So I think for those that wanted to use it as a bludgeon, it's easier when you slap the word crack addict onto it. It made me a lot easier target for the Don Juniors of the world, the Marjorie Taylor Greens of the world, just because of their inherent kind of meanness about things. But I'm not a victim here. I was a crack addict. I wrote about it. I was transparent about it. I wasn't naive to the idea that somehow that would be something that anyone or everyone would be able to fully comprehend and have empathy for. We're lacking empathy across the board, not just for Hunter Biden. But I guess I was a little bit surprised in terms of a lot of people in the press Now, whether it was the New York Times or the New York Post, kind of dismissed addiction as somehow unique to my family, or without taking into account what they were doing to other people that were looking to get clean and sober. One of the things about getting clean and sober, at least I found, I don't know what your experience in your life with your friends or others is, one of the things that keeps us in the cycle of addiction is our guilt and our shame, is the lies we tell ourselves and the lies that we tell the people that we care about the most. And you get clean and you get sober, and what ends up happening is you still hold on to these secrets. Like, I smoke crack. I was a crack smoker. They know that I did cocaine, or they know that I was drinking, but they don't know that I was also an inveterate drug user. And so you keep that secret, and that guilt kind of boils up. And the only place that you can talk about it is in rooms full of virtual strangers, which is really helpful. But it isn't it doesn't release you from that awful feeling that I'm about to be found out, and that anxiety. And so then you get triggered. Your brain tells you to do the only thing that it's learned how to do, is that you need to save yourself. And the fastest way to save yourself is a drink or a drug. So you get caught in this loop. And the favor that they did for me is I don't have any more secrets.
Right now, you are losing valuable time.
Our growth since starting with House Call has been steady and measurable. In 2015, at that time, it was my father, myself, and one other plumber. Now we have my father, myself, 5 other plumbers, and 2 apprentices.
Don't wait any longer. Book a quick demo and learn how House Call Pro can help you automate your business. Save time and do more of what you love.
Stop pouting.
So if I turned off Ada tomorrow, I would need to double my support teams. My name's Eric Berdulis. I work at Checker, and I've been at Checker for 2 years, but been in the startup space for 15. 2 years ago when I joined, we had 65 different ways that a customer could contact us. We were getting all of these contacts, voice, email, chat, and we weren't responding to them in a timely fashion. And so just to start, we were trying to solve the problem of how do we deliver a really exceptional experience for our candidates, but do so within budget. Generally, people care about is this saving us money, and is it delivering a better experience? And I would say, yes, it's saving us money. We clicked on generative in April of last year for our customers, and compared to the declarative bot, it doubled CSAT. Then seeing the personalization turn on in Q4 and some of the deeper resolutions that we were able to provide, like the bot actually giving answers to customers in a really timely fashion, and like very detailed answers, and seeing that rise from 50 to 76, we just started trying to figure out, like, how do we actually deliver great experiences? Like, if this was a team member, how do we start treating it like a team member, making sure it can fully resolve? We've started to go deep in personalizing, rewriting our articles, tailoring, and giving it access to a lot more stuff on the back end, and seeing that continue to grow. Like, resolution rates are growing, CSAT's growing. We're in a heavily regulated industry, and we actually have all of our human agents pass FCRA exam. And we wanted actually to hold our AI agent to the same standard as humans. And so we put it through the same training. And this is something that, like, we want to commit to doing on a regular basis, so we are enforcing the same standards. One of the things I'm really looking forward to in 2025 is thinking about how we can get proactive with customer support, so really great experiences aren't just waiting for people to tell you there's a problem, not just the common stuff, but the more atypical stuff that people contact us about. How do we give it access to the right data at the right times to solve those inquiries? When we were early on in our generative journey, I met with a bunch of different COOs and people in my shoes that were experimenting with generative AI, and like the through line through all of them were like, find a good company that will partner with you in the journey and figure out, like, if stuff is going wrong, how to fix it, like how to deliver great results, like on your behalf. And so for us, that's been Ada.
Now, not everything that's been said about me is true, But there are the things that most people would be very embarrassed about. I've been very open about. I spent more time on my hands and knees, picking through rugs, smoking anything that even remotely resembled crack cocaine. I probably smoked more Parmesan cheese than anyone, and so I don't get triggered in the same way. But the thing that scares me is for people that look at the way that I'm treated in the media, whatever the hell the media is, and think, do I want to get honest? I mean, it seems to me, if you look at that as a test case, better to keep some things unsaid. And I think that's really dangerous for people, at least in my experience with recovery.
As far as the media goes, what do you think are the 3 craziest things you've heard about yourself in the press?
Oh my God, the list is forever and forever. They got stuck on for a while, even Fox News, that I funded the Wuhan lab. I said that to someone a long time ago on camera as in response to a question like you just asked. And you gotta be really careful. Somebody's gonna be able to cut that and say, I did not fund the Wuhan lab.
I did.
Yeah, you did? Yeah, exactly. Me and George Soros. Supposedly me and George Soros have a lot in common. The one thing I'm positive we don't have in common is that I am very, very far from being a billionaire. But those conspiracies are kind of the craziest. You know, I just heard Jake Tapper is going on TV saying that, you know, I basically acted as the chief of staff.
I think Hunter was driving the decision making for the family in a way that people, he was almost like a chief of staff of the family.
Does that strike you as pretty bizarre?
I think I spent 12 days in the White House in the last 2 years of the administration. I had a lot of other things going on. I think the one that was like you feel like you just got hit in the gut, you know, by an elephant, is when Rudy Giuliani and Bernie Kerik went to the Newcastle County Courthouse here in Delaware and talked about me being involved in, I think, you know, child sex crimes and stuff like that. And I mean, literally with nothing. That one was the last and the only one that was kind of hard to wake up from. It's like how do you ever take that out of somebody's head after they've heard it, you know? But I mean, truly, the list just goes on and on.
Did you try to like sue for defamation or damages or anything after that?
No, and I mean, I am in a defamation suit right now. I mean, one of the craziest ones is what Patrick Byrne said about me. And let me get this straight. He said that I was the key person in ensuring that the sanctioned Iranian oil money that was being held in South Korea was released at the behest of myself and somebody in Pakistan. And I took a 10% fee off the $8 billion for my family.
We have to give 10% to the big man. You're the big man, I think.
And then I had traveled to Tehran and to the Middle East in 2022 and 2023 in order to effectuate this. And then that ultimately, his followers made the direct connection that money was used to fund Hamas for the murder of over 1,400 Jews on October 7th. That's the kind of stuff. And now, I know you guys look and say, like, but who believes that? You know, I don't know. The million people that read that tweet, you know. I had one guy in California who is I don't remember his name, but he's associated with SpaceX, a big investor in SpaceX, a very, very wealthy guy, claimed just months ago that I rented a house from him and that I trashed the house and I had the Secret Service stiff him on the rent and that I tried to pay him with a book of art made of my own feces.
His ex-landlord claims he stiffed him on a whopping $300,000 in rent. What happens to the back rent that Hunter Biden owes my family? Is that pardoned now?
And, you know, like, how insane is that, right? You know, but you look into the background of this person, and he's a major investor in SpaceX. He's probably worth a few $100 million, and he has this huge following on X. Elon Musk retweeted that, and it went, you know, and it went viral.
It's pretty messed up, man. There's also some people, though, who just think that if you leave the country, you're a spy. You know what I mean? Like, why is he going so many places?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You know, the really interesting thing is they created this a character that is both in some sense a ne'er-do-well fail son that has not ever accomplished anything, and a criminal mastermind all in one. I kind of feel like, you know, pick one. Most of my travel during that period of time when my dad was vice president, and by the way, I didn't travel anywhere when my dad was president. I don't think I left the country. But during that time, I was the chairman of the board of what's called the U.S.-UN World Food Program. And I was also chairman of the board of the Truman National Security Project, chairman of the board of the Center for National Policy. I was a professor at Georgetown University, adjunct professor for over 4 years in the master's program of the School of Foreign Service. I taught a course on advocacy, and largely based upon the implementation of a thing called PEPFAR, President's Emergency Plan for Aid Relief in Africa. And as the chairman of the board of the U.S.-UN World Food Program, it's kind of like what you know of, like, as a kid growing up, like UNICEF. UN has voluntary aid organizations in which each nation state that is a part of the UN voluntarily contributes to the continued operations of UNICEF, UNHCR, UNESCO. All of these organizations are all voluntary aid organizations. The UN World Food Program is the largest voluntary aid program in the United Nations, and it is the largest humanitarian organization in the world. It serves over 80 million meals on a daily basis in 72 different countries, and it is the first on the ground because it controls all the airlift and communications for all of the relief efforts globally in any natural disaster or civil war or conflict. And so the UN, U.S., is responsible for about 65% of the budget of the World Food Program, which was my responsibility as chairman of the board. And I increased the budget of the World Food Program, which just won the Nobel Peace Prize 2 or 3 years ago, by 50% when I was chairman over my term, to like $2.4 billion. It's all gone now. Trump ended all of that. But the point about traveling. So I went to the Philippines after Typhoon Haiyan. I went to Kenya to Dadaab when refugees were flowing in from across southern Africa and Ethiopia. I've been to Syria, Lebanon, and Jordan, and I've been to all over the world. 75% of my travel during that period of time was on behalf of the World Food Program and other, you know, NGOs that I worked on behalf of.
So I want to back all the way up to the very, very beginning. A little short bio. We can do a long bio too. So you're born here in Delaware or born here in Pennsylvania?
In Delaware.
Okay, in Delaware.
Yeah, Wilmington.
Wilmington.
Yeah, 10 minutes from here, 15.
What are your thoughts on Wilmington, Delaware? Nice place?
Oh, yeah. One of the things that I still do love about the East Coast and Delaware and the Mid-Atlantic is the history. And so I'm a little bit of a...
Looking to hire? ZipRecruiter delivers candidates with the right skills and experience fast. So fast that 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate on day one. Try for free at ZipRecruiter.com.
Let's see you get out of this. That wasn't exactly how that was supposed to go.
Here in California, we have lots of climate events. When you have solar and a power wall, I get to control all that. I like the independence. During the day, when the cost of energy is lower, the solar runs the house. When the cost of energy is higher, the power wall runs the house. It automatically knows when to do it.
The last bill was a minus 64.83. If you look at the credit years today, $492.82. I feel great.
History geek.
Yeah, because Delaware doesn't really get much representation. Because you got Philadelphia, powerhouse of history and culture. You got Rocky, a lot of other things going on there, too important stuff. And then
we agree on that. I'm basically living in the suburb of Philly. Yeah.
Well, I don't want to say that, but you got Baltimore, The Wire.
Yeah.
You know, you got people on horses in the streets out there.
Yeah.
People on ATVs. And then Delaware's kind of sitting in between. People know that it's a corporate tax haven. People know that the Biden family's from there. What's something that people don't know about Delaware that they should?
Delaware's the first state. I don't know if they should know this, but it's the first state to ratify the Constitution. When Thomas Penn basically colonized Pennsylvania, he carved out Delaware, and we called it the diamond in the jewel in the crown of the colonies. Delaware is almost, you know, a state of almost all coastline, Here's the thing that's interesting about Delaware. Delaware is geographically and historically and emotionally both a southern and a northern state. So the northern part of the state feels very much like Philadelphia. The southern part of the state feels very much like South Carolina.
So do you see like Confederate flags in Dover?
Maybe not Dover, but definitely Gumboro. You know, I think that the National Association for the Advancement of White People started in Gumboro, Delaware.
How are they doing?
I don't know. It was a long, long time ago.
Seems like they're doing pretty well.
I think they probably had a real comeback. But that's because Delaware was a slave state that fought on the side of the Union. And the Mason-Dixon line, actually, Delaware is the only state the Mason-Dixon line does not bisect. And that is because it starts at our western border, the actual line of the Mason-Dixon line, and right in the middle of the state. So there's 3 counties in Delaware, and if you go below the canal, you're in the southern part of Delaware, Kent and Sussex.
And you were born in the 70s?
I was born in 1970. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
A couple years after the Summer of Love.
Yeah. My brother was born 1969, February 3rd, and I was born February 4th, 1970. And my sister was a year, a couple months after that, 71.
Now, I know that you've talked about this story before, but there was a tragedy pretty early on in your life. Can you kind of tell people what happened for those who don't know?
Yeah. My dad got elected to the Senate on December 18th of 1972, so I was almost 3 years old. And my brother, myself, my little sister were with my mom and the dog in a station wagon, and we were hit by a tractor trailer. My mother and sisters were killed instantly. My brother and I were trapped inside the car, but they got us out. And I had significant head trauma. My brother basically broke almost every bone in his body and was in traction, and we were in the hospital together for weeks. And family and this community saved us. And my aunts and uncles moved in with my dad, and he figured out a way to be with us and be a dad to us and also be a senator, commuted every day. And so I grew up here. I mean, I spent a lot of time with my dad. My brother and I had this rule with my dad is that we could go with him whenever we wanted to. And kind of no questions asked. And obviously we didn't take advantage of it, otherwise it would have gone away, but we were smart enough to do that. But we spent a lot of time on the train going down to the Russell Senate office building with my dad, and just to be with him. We did everything together. The thing about my mom and my sister dying and my brother and I being in that accident, it's like the realization that I have with addiction and being someone public is that I'm in no way unique. You know, everybody's had a tragedy in their family. And when you're in the public eye and as transparent, I think, as my family's been about their tragedies and whether we wanted to or not, you have this incredible wellspring of other people that come to you and want to talk to you about your own experience or their experience. Like, how'd you get through it? And like, I had the same thing. And you realize that we are almost all universal in that way. Is the one thing that binds each and every one of us is not necessarily love. People can go through life without being loved. It's not the only experience that we will all have between the time we're born and then we die is pain. And being able to recognize pain is a thing that connects us all. Is a real gift, I think, at least, and given me a lot of strength when I needed it.
How do you feel that particular experience impacted you growing up?
I don't know. I think it's something that's a lifelong journey to be able to figure out what that kind of a trauma has on you. I don't know. I mean, I used to fight against the idea that it had anything to do with my addictive behavior. I don't fight about that as much anymore. It kind of makes sense to me in a way. I think that some of the genetics make sense to me in a way too. But in terms of that trauma and how I see it today, in the way that people responded, it's all about the love that I experienced during that time. I look back and I think of the way in which my family surrounded me. I was given the gift of having known and having 2 mothers that I consider my mom, both of them. My birth mother and my mom now. And I feel incredibly lucky for that. Instead of thinking of it as some tragedy, I feel incredibly lucky that I had my aunts and uncles that literally moved in with us. And I got the experience of having an extended family. My uncle is my best friend in the world, outside of my dad and my brother. And that, I don't know whether we would all be as close if it weren't for that. But you know, I mean, you come from a big Irish Catholic family. This isn't like, oh, woe is me. You know, I mean, everybody's gone through this.
It was definitely a cultural kind of instinct to not allow ourselves to be defined by traumatic events and to take responsibility for the way that, you know, we've handled things that have happened.
Oh, yeah, I think so. And I think ultimately, at the end of the day, we all have to take responsibility, regardless of the reason. The consequences aren't always fair, but I think the biggest question is whether you use it as an excuse or do you use it as a catalyst to be more empathetic with other people and also yourself.
Yeah.
That makes sense?
Yeah, and it sounds like the kind of double-edged sword you're talking about, or the flip side of the coin, is that even in the wake of tragedy, allowed for your extended family, like your uncles and stuff, to become closer because they recognized that you needed like an extra layer of support. And so do you feel like without that happening, there wouldn't have been as strong of a bond within the family?
I don't know. I do know this, is that my family is just incredibly close-knit, but I can't imagine that, I mean, obviously, yeah, I think your relationships are forged by the circumstances, and the more dire and consequential the circumstances, the stronger the bond. I mean, I don't know what your experience is, but I do know this, is that I feel very lucky, and the reason I feel very lucky is because this state, not just my family, but the people in this state. It's like when I was on trial here, I walked out of that courtroom after the conviction in Delaware in the gun case, and the first thing I said to the group of people that were there, my family and closest friends, is that how grateful I was. I mean, I'm truly grateful. It was like being able to go to your own funeral. I looked behind me and realized that no matter what, there was a whole courtroom full of people that knew who I was. And I had a whole family of people that were like aunts and uncles. I felt lucky, and I still feel lucky, and I don't take it for granted.
I think in a lot of ways, catastrophe reveals character. You know, you're able to see how far someone's willing to go to help you, or how much they care about your well-being when things aren't going well.
Yeah.
And I feel like you've had a couple different cycles of that throughout your life.
Yeah, it feels like a never-ending cycle of that, you know. But, you know, I mean, that's life. I hope that at the end of the day, like, look, I am trying to figure out how to make as clear as possible. Addiction is not an excuse, but it is an explanation. There are consequences for people, as you know, or anybody that's in recovery or spending any time, is regardless of whether those consequences are legal, financial, relationship-wise, or anyway, is that, you know, that addiction, and when I say addiction, I mean alcohol too, because I don't know of any more destructive drug than alcohol, there are consequences. And I'm still appropriately paying the price for some of it. We're trying to make amends for stuff that are personal, that I believe that I still need to make amends for. I don't believe that there should be a continued, that somebody should have to wear Scarlet A for the rest of their life. You know, it's interesting the way that people talk about addicts, because if they just step back for a second and examine their own lives and the people that they idolize, I mean, I guarantee you at least 50, 60% of them are or were or are in recovery, hopefully, or experienced some level of addiction in their lives without kind of attaching this, you know, Scarlet A to everything that they do.
How old were you when you first started, I guess, drinking or experimenting with drugs?
I think the first time that if you're right about this, the first time I took a drink was a party where I stole a glass of champagne and hid under the table, maybe 8, 11, something like that.
Okay, so before high school.
Yeah, but you know, that was like my first memory with alcohol was that. I don't think then I didn't like continue drinking after that, but I can remember that distinctively. But then in high school was, you know, when I started drinking. I played football, so you wouldn't really drink during the football season, but you know, weekend drinking, yeah.
So just like standard going out Friday, Saturday.
Yeah.
No, obviously no crack.
No. I didn't, you know, I experimented with drugs in high school, but drugs as an issue did not occur until crack.
Hello, thank you for calling.
Angela,
We have to break up.
But why?
Because you're a robot. And I'm just a guy trying to find better internet.
It's Allo Fiber, isn't it?
They let me talk to real people. They don't make me sit there.
I can change. If you sign up for our 2-year plan.
Angela, don't make me say it.
No, wait.
Representative.
Stop. Don't do this.
Representative!
It's time to break up with bad internet. Visit allofiber.com/breakfree to switch today.
Your business depends on getting the right parts fast every time. That's why it's time to register as a dealer with Harvest. Accidents have been serving the garage door industry for over 30 years, and we've learned that our dealers we grow. That's why we go beyond parts, and we're here to help you build your business. What if your parts supplier is just as committed to growing your business? At Active Industries, we back that commitment with 7 warehouses nationwide and our own dedicated customer team, giving you fast, reliable deliveries on a consistent schedule. When it comes to service, our dedicated support team is always just and our American-made weather seal products, they'll give your customers the quality they expect, proudly made right here in the USA. We're not just delivering parts, we're delivering solutions that help you get the job done right and build your business. So what are you waiting for? Register as a dealer today and let's grow together.
So it was just like, you didn't go from cocaine to crack?
No, it wasn't as linear as that. And so with me, what ended up happening was, when my brother was dying, he was dying in a very slow but certain way, because he had glioblastoma, multiform stage 4 cancer, which basically you have a 2% survival rate. And even that 2%, your chances of being fully intact physically and mentally are, basically 0.2% of people survive without, their life, but almost a 98% certainty that you're not going to live outside of 2 years. And so my brother never wanted to really know those numbers. And so I remember, I haven't read all of the book, but the people have given me a little synopsis of, like, this guy, Alex Thompson, who no reason anybody would know who the hell Alex Thompson is. He has this whole thing, I understand, in which he says, like, the Bidens covered up Bo's cancer diagnosis. And I feel like saying, what the fuck are you talking about, man? You get a terminal diagnosis, okay? What do? Do you accept it, go home and die? Or do you say, I'm not dying, I'm going to be part of that 2%. I sit down with the oncologist, and the oncologists tell me that there are new procedures and there are new experimental things that they're doing as it relates to X, Y, and Z at MD Anderson or at Sloan Kettering, and I'm going to do that, and I'm going to try that, and I'm going to survive, and I'm going to run for governor. My brother was the Attorney General. He was no longer the Attorney General. He did not run for re-election as Attorney General, but he was considering running for governor at the time. When my brother would be asked, he'd say, I'm okay. I'm okay. And he'd keep doing his job, and he was in private practice at this time. And so, what does Alex Thompson think my brother would owe fucking anyone to say, oh no, I'm dying, I'm not gonna run for governor? And why would he do that? Why would you give up on life? And it's almost like somehow that this human being is not a human being. Like, he has not experienced life. He has not had anyone in his life that is, and I find that really hard to believe in a day and age when I don't know anybody that hasn't had somebody in their family that has cancer. And so what do you say to them? Oh, you have cancer? Oh, so you're gonna go tell your boss that you're dying and you should quit now? No, you don't. You go do your chemo, you do your radiation, you get up in the morning and you eat better, and you go on a different diet plan, and you get experimental procedures done, and you fight and you fight and you fight. At least that's what my brother did. Anyway, my point being, it was slow. And I knew that there was
Invasive data hoarders delete your information. Maybe you're looking for a job on Indeed, or you just got out of like a 4-year relationship and you're signing up for a dating app like Tinder or Hinge. Or maybe you're scoping out the housing market on Zillow. Well, guess what? With every account you make and every search you make from your account, your name, email, home address, IP data, and shopping history is being painstakingly collected and sold to whoever's paying. Mostly to companies you've never even heard of. Data brokers. That's where Incogni comes in. They reach out to data broker sites on your behalf, file official removal requests, and fight back when companies try to play dumb and hold on to your info. After I signed up, Incogni hit up 86 data brokers that had my information. And a week later, I noticed a massive drop in spam emails. No more creepy phone calls from healthcare providers I never contacted. No more emails from longevity pill companies that somehow know my blood type. It was like a whole new reality.
Sense to recognize that if I was being told this story by my daughter in real time, I would say, you're out of your mind. It was a miracle that I found her. I met Melissa, and within literally an hour, I was telling her my whole unvarnished life history and the immediate problems that I was facing, which was crack addiction. She literally said, well, that ends now. And it did. I mean, not that minute, but over the next 2 weeks. And then I asked her to marry me, and she said yes. And I said, well, why wouldn't we do it right now? And so we literally called Justice of the Peace to the house. She came and she married us. For me, it was a miracle. For Melissa, the really hard part started then, in the sense of, like, you know, getting clean and sober is not easy. It's even harder on the people that love you. And if they're that support system, it's a full-time job in that immediate period of time. Because, you know, as I said to you before, the dangerous part is withdrawing from alcohol. And it can be kind of scary. And she went through all of that, and she went through the entire process with me. And she did things that I wouldn't allow anybody else to do. I saw in Melissa somebody that, without any history between us, looked at me with as much love as I looked at her. And I accepted that love in that moment. And a lot of it was tough love. Like, I mean, she took my car keys, she took my wallet, she took my clothes for a period of time, so I couldn't leave the house.
Wait, took your clothes?
No, I didn't have anything. I mean, it would have been impossible. We were living in the Hollywood Hills. There was nowhere to go. And if I could go anywhere, there's nothing to buy anything with, so.
So I can remember covering the 2020 election about a year later, and I think it was the first Stop the Steal rally at Reading Terminal Market in Philadelphia, and I saw what I thought was a BLM flag, Black Lives Matter, but it actually said Biden's laptop matters.
Oh, yeah.
And so I asked the guy, what the hell does that mean? And he just sort of kept yelling the slogan over and over again. Couldn't get much out of him.
Yeah.
So for those who don't know, what happened with that?
Well, I don't know. You tell me. And I really mean that sincerely. Like, you'll have a lot of people that will come up with something about the laptop. But I always say to anybody, I mean, you're steeped in and just through your work, the right-wing narrative around it. And my question to anybody that is keeping an open mind is, what is it that you think the laptop proves? Or what you call the laptop? So everybody has a laptop. So when they say Hunter Biden's laptop, what is it that they're talking about? Do you know?
Well, I know that you, your entire iCloud was connected to it, all of your personal text messages, private photos, all that kind of stuff.
Like everybody's laptop.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you left it with a repair shop owner who, for some reason, gave it to Rudy Giuliani. Not exactly sure how that's legal. He distributed it to the press, particularly I think the New York Post was involved in the spearheading of this mass dissemination of your private materials. From what it seemed like, it was a lot of private text between you and your friends, family. Your entire sort of private life was on there.
Yeah. And again, so everybody has a laptop. Everybody has a cloud.
I'm assuming not.
No, not everybody has a laptop. Everybody has a digital life. Almost everybody has a digital life. Everybody has a digital life, pretty much. And that includes voicemails and pictures and text messages and emails and location data and, you know, everything. Everybody, you do, everybody that is here right now. By whatever means, they got my digital footprint going back decades.
My name is Pauline, and we own Fast Fix Garage Door in McKinney. We like the quality of the product. They're always really nice.
Over 20 years. Again, I ask anybody, you're steeped in this, and this isn't a challenging question, but it kind of makes my point. What does my laptop prove about criminality or anything, other than what I had already readily admitted to, completely transparent about, is my drug addiction.
Well, I'm trying to remember specifically what the most radical conspiracies that I heard. I think that a lot of people are concerned or curious about various international business dealings.
So I served on the board of well over a dozen different entities, way more than that, including major global organizations. I was the vice chairman of the board of the National Passenger Rail Corporation, which is otherwise known as Amtrak. It's the largest passenger rail company in the world, which is more than just a rail company. It's also a real estate company. It's also a commercial real estate company. It's a residential real estate company. And it is probably the largest owners of property in urban metro centers of any organization in the country, and a huge employer and a multi-billion-dollar business. And I was the chairman of the corporate governance committee on that board, and vice chairman, and elected chairman, and then resigned before the Obama administration took. As I told you before, I was the chairman of the board of the UN World Food Program, responsible for sustaining a budget above $2 billion a year for the World Food Program and the contribution the United States makes to the global relief effort as it relates to hunger. I was chairman of the board of the Center for National Policy. I was on the board of Catholic Charities. I was on the board of Jesuit Volunteer Corps Northwest. I was on the board. I mean, I keep going down the list of board memberships that I had. And a year and a half before my dad was to leave office, I was approached by a Ukrainian natural gas company through one of their board members to consider being of assistance to a company that was being threatened by the Russian aggression and the invasion of Crimea and the incursions into Donetsk and Donbass. And I took them on as a client because I was a partner of counsel, at Boyd Schiller Flexner, which was a major national global law firm, in which I focused on corporate governance and commercial law. And I represented them for about a 3-month period of time. And through that representation, they asked if I would join the board, which I did. The day that I joined the board, I announced it and sent out a press release of the reasons why that I was joining the board, which came and went, and did not become an issue until Rudy Giuliani, along with a guy named Andrei Derkach and a number of others that have all been convicted of treason for being Russian agents, came up with a conspiracy that Joe Biden was involved in a bribery scheme.
The FBI arrested the person who offered those allegations for falsifying his testimony to the FBI.
For over a 10-year period of time, I worked with a group of people that had a cross-border private equity firm inside of China, and I had a business that was based around advisory for multinational global funds, private equity funds, doing infrastructure work and others. And I was asked to join a fund, the startup inside of China that was had a headquarters in Beijing, Shanghai, Hong Kong, and New York. And I had a 10% equity stake in that, of which I paid, I made my equity contribution in that, just like every other member of that.
Federal officials are looking at his foreign business dealings, including his ties to a Chinese energy company.
And those are my two foreign business dealings.
Yeah, because I was kind of looking into it, and it seems like the conspiracy is that through those connections that you had to these, I guess, foreign governments, they were using you to leverage pressure onto your dad
Again,
somehow.
like what?
Well, that's the thing, is that when you're looking
I'm not putting you on the spot. And I guess my whole point is that I asked these same questions to the House Oversight Committee. I've been investigated by the House Oversight Committee, the House Ways and Means Committee, the House Judiciary Committee, the Senate Judiciary Committee, the Senate Oversight Committee, and I have been investigated by Maine Justice, the U.S. Attorney in Pittsburgh, the U.S. Attorney in Philadelphia, the U.S. Attorney in District of Columbia, the U.S. Attorney in Los Angeles, the U.S. Attorney of Delaware, the Special Counsel's Office. Not one single person has ever accused me of a crime based upon anything that was in or discovered as it relates to my laptop. Not one. Not a single thing about my laptop. So this whole idea that there was some conspiracy to cover up the laptop, they uncovered 20 years unvarnished of every single communication that I've ever had over a phone or by text or over email or computer in any digital way. There's not one communication that you can even remotely say is evidence of a crime. Not one. Not one time. Not one communication. I would challenge anybody to show one instance, other than me seeking drugs for myself, for my own personal use, okay? Or women, as it relates to, people that were in the drug trade that I would seek for the purchase of drugs. One single instance in which anyone has used any one of those communications as evidence of any kind of crime at all. Now, take that, okay? That's it. So you say Hunter Biden's laptop. What? By the way, I'm talking out there to people that I would assume are, or want to be on my side, or at least want to be on the side that I'm a part of. What about Hunter Biden's laptop? How about this? Well, it was a cover-up. Twitter took it down, and it was a big cover-up. And you have Matt Taibbi and all these guys who say, yeah, it was that Twitter took it down and Facebook took it down.
It seems that big tech only censors, media companies only censor stories when they're negative towards the Biden campaign.
You know why they took it down? Because what they did was they published naked photos of me and women, which is in violation of their terms, and which, by the way, is a criminal act under the new federal law that was passed by accredited to Melania Trump, with universal support in the House and the Senate. That's why they took it down. It wasn't a cover-up. And then you had 100 former national security officials come out and say, this looks like it could be a Russian op. Because it is. Because in the course of an election, what happens? You have Rudy Giuliani in conjunction with Steve Bannon, in conjunction with Miles Gao, who's in jail, who is, I don't know how many other counts of fraud and bribery, and is a Chinese national, was working directly with Steve Bannon, and a number of others, including Bernie Kerik, who, God rest his soul, is dead, that basically came out and, said, we have Hunter Biden's laptop. And the big reveal about Hunter Biden's laptop was that I was a crack addict. But, unfortunately for them, I had already admitted that I was a crack addict in the pages of the New Yorker and did a, 13,000-word article with Adam Entos in which I told everything about myself and my own struggles. And they just simply conflated the two. They said, well, Joe Biden fired the prosecutor in Ukraine to benefit his son. Completely debunked. Person that said that I took a bribe for that happens to be a guy named Shokin, who is in prison for lying to the FBI on a form FT 1023. In prison, admitted to it, admitted that he was enticed into making it up on behalf of the Trump team aside. The only other guy that came up and said that there was illegal and wrongdoing and bribery was a guy named Gal Luft, who was later convicted or an abstentia, both by the EU and as a arrest warrant out for him by Interpol and the United States as an arms dealer, selling Chinese weapons to the Iranians and to the Libyans. And so, again, I ask, so Hunter Biden's laptop, so what? So what?
It sounds like it was just became political cannon fodder to, make that election cycle as colorful as possible.
How do you defend yourself against it, though? So if somebody says...
Well, let's start with the fact that your private photos were leaked by somebody that was supposed to be repairing your laptop.
Some people will go, well, hey, wait a second, aren't you just leafing through someone else's private property?
It can be perceived that way, but again, he hired me to do that.
Number one, I literally have no memory of ever dropping my laptop off there, okay? This guy swears that I did, okay? Regardless, to your point, okay? This is Wilmington. That laptop repair shop is in Trolley Square. I had family that owned a business that was literally the opposite side of them. There are literally within a stone's throw of where that person is in a very, very small community, at least a dozen people directly related to my family. Every night he used to go to 2 or 3 different bars in which he could have literally turned and talked to anyone and said, do you know how to get in touch with Hunter?
You're talking about the laptop
repair. The laptop repair shop. Somehow that doesn't happen. But somehow this guy, who's supposed to be repairing a laptop, he says, decides what he's going to do is he's going to review the material, and what he sees is he thinks is evidence of a crime.
McIsaac says he also found documents that show payments made to Hunter Biden from a Ukrainian energy company that have become the center of a political firestorm.
More emails from Hunter Biden's laptop keep surfacing.
I want to know where Hunter Biden's laptop is.
Let's get the truth. What's in this laptop?
Now again, the evidence he thinks is of a crime is my drug use. He thinks it's embarrassing. And all of a sudden, who ends up with my laptop? The one person in that moment in time that had more to gain than anyone else.
I got the hard drive legally, completely legally. Why are they worried about how I got it? Why don't they just say it's untrue?
Rudy Giuliani and his lawyer on behalf of Donald Trump.
Hello, my name is Adam Ferrari, the Chief Executive Officer of Phoenix Energy. I look forward to you joining us at our next investor webinar, where you can drill deeper into our 9 to 13% annual interest rate bond offerings and see how our company has become an emerging leader in the oil and gas industry. In 2024, Phoenix Energy rose to become the 11th most prolific oil and gas operator in the Williston Basin, one of America's top producing regions. We are now right alongside industry giants like ConocoPhillips and EOG and plan to continue rising in the rankings. Our daily production rates have risen as high as 18,000 barrels of oil per day. We've sold more than 4 million barrels, and we're just getting started. We hope to see you at our brief webinar. In less than 1 hour, you will learn more about our 9 to 13% annual interest rate bond offerings and the U.S. oil and gas sector. These Regulation D 506E bond offerings are open to accredited investors. Our team will guide you through the details on how to get started. Sign up for the webinar and start your journey with Phoenix Energy today.
Imagine being able to build anything just by thinking about it. Meet Base 44, a complete AI creation platform made for anyone with an idea and a drive to bring it to life. Describe what you want and watch it take shape. You can plan, customize, and expand in any direction. From tools built for one to platforms ready for many. From passion projects to enterprise-grade systems. Everything is built in and ready to launch. It's a new world of creation where you can go as far as your imagination takes you. Can you imagine it? Let's make your dream a reality right now.
How is that possible? Does that just happen to happen?
I think that somebody that knows you may have been paid off to orchestrate some kind of data.
I don't know. And at this point, it's like, who cares? So then I get in an argument about, like, okay, well, who took the laptop? How did the laptop disseminate it? Was there really a laptop? Because there really isn't, by the way. Here's another anomaly of this. There really isn't a laptop. There's a hard drive. And then there's an amalgamation of a hard drive. There's an original hard drive that he says he has, and he argues with everybody else who says that there are like 400 gigabytes more that were added onto that from the dark web.
You never got a laptop before you wrote that story, did you?
That's correct.
You got a hard drive.
Hard drive.
And you received that hard drive from Rudy Giuliani, right?
Yep.
Who had been openly associating with an agent of Russian intelligence in the months leading up to your story. You agree with that, right?
I guess.
So you think the repair shop story is made up?
I don't know, but all I know is that whatever this amalgamation of stuff is, came from a whole host of different sources.
Yeah.
Because you can look at it now and the stuff that like who thinks this is right? Who thinks it's right that every picture that you've ever taken, the ones that you would be embarrassed by and the ones that you would be proud of, should be on a website controlled by a guy that is a Christo-fascist fucking incel that lives in Indiana or Illinois? I forget which one.
Let's hope Indiana, because it's worse.
But really, who comes up with a 435-page dossier about all the crimes that it details, but literally it just is it is an entire fiction that makes money off of. Who thinks that's right? And so, but again, I get these discussions where, well, their laptop really doesn't exist, but what is it? Like, you go down these rabbit holes, And you do exactly what they say. As long as they say laptop loud enough, often enough, you automatically, and Hunter Biden, crack cocaine, and, you know, here's the picture. And here he is shirtless, smoking crack in a bathtub. And, you know, I keep flashing that over and over again. And I say Hunter Biden, laptop, Ukraine, China, Ukraine, China, Hunter Biden, laptop, bird flu. Like, literally, you keep doing that over and over and over again? What, like, none of it bears any resemblance to reality. The reality is this. I ran into legal trouble based on two things. One is I failed to pay my taxes on time during the worst time of my addiction. Remember I said to you that I started in the downward spiral of my life, and I did not come out of that until May of 2019. When I came out of it, I immediately started to try to pick up the pieces of my life and put them back together. And like anybody that comes into recovery, you don't come into the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous or anywhere else. You don't come in on a winning streak. Nobody comes in like just having won the lottery. Everybody's on the balls of their ass to come in, and they got a lot of things to clean up in their life, and some worse than others. Mine, at this point, you know, was about relationships and my finances. And one of the things that I realized is that my accountant had died. I go to get a new accountant. I figure out how I'm going to pay for the new accountant, and they go to get the transcripts of my previous taxes, and they say, we don't have any record of your taxes being filed in 2016 and 17, which would mean the years 2017 and 18, like the worst years of my addiction. Now, for 15 years of my life, I had my own business, and I had a partner, and I had an accountant, and I had a staff of people that did my taxes. Like somebody else did my taxes. They had authorization to sign my name and send my taxes. And they had a tax account, and they would pay it out of their tax account because it was being withheld from my income. That all fucking completely fell apart when I was smoking crack every 15 minutes. And my business failed, the people in my life left, my wife divorced me. It all went away. And when I realized that my taxes had never been filed, they'd all been filled out, signed, checked attached, but never filled and never sent in. That was the final step of my responsibility. I realized that I didn't. I filed my taxes, and I paid penalties and interest. That's one thing. Second thing is, in 2018, went and I bought I was here in Delaware. It was a period of time in which I had one of those times that I was trying to get clean and sober, and I had just come back from a rehab. I came back here. I went to get my phone replaced at AT&T. Next door, there was a survival gun shop, and I went in and just to look around while I was waiting for my phone. And on a whim, I bought a handgun, put it in my truck. Somebody in my life thought I was going to hurt myself with it, threw it in a trash can, and I made them go back and try to find it. And when they couldn't, I told them that they needed to call the police and file a report that the gun had been lost. The gun was recovered. It had never been loaded, never been fired. It was in my possession inside of a lockbox for a total of 10 days. They charged me with tax evasion, 13 different counts, in 3 different jurisdictions. By the way, over 50 million Americans a year pay their taxes late. There are over $100 billion in taxes that there are identified people that have not paid, that have failed to pay their taxes for over 5 years. Okay? There's a box that you check. In that box, when you go to purchase a gun, says that you're not addicted to a narcotic, illegal substance, including marijuana. And I check that box because in my mind, it is a state of mind question. Are you in the moment right now addicted to any illegal drug? Well, even though it had not been used in the commission of a crime, even though I never ever fired the gun, even though I'd never bought it with the intent to do a crime, even though people buy guns every single day, obviously, that smoke marijuana, and it is equally against the law to check that box if you do, or to own a gun if you smoke marijuana on a regular basis in any way. They charged me with 3 different counts that could be up to 30 years in prison. Those are the 2 things. And this is obviously a special case that had come to an agreement with me and a plan in which I would have a diversion agreement and a plea agreement. And they blew it up on purpose at the behest of the right wing.
I got sober in 2019. So the acknowledgments in his own words, he read his audiobook, are that, hey, I was not sober when I was not off drugs when I was purchasing that gun, which is illegal.
My whole point of all of that is that was the culmination of years of investigating me. Nothing about Ukraine, nothing about a laptop, nothing about my father, nothing about bribery, nothing about China, nothing about children, nothing about... Nothing. None of it.
Hey, I'm on your team.
No, I know you are, and I get so tired of having. I'm not saying to you, but it's just like it's like spitting into the wind, man. Like, what's the point? Like, it is just like, how do I fight against the New York Post? How do I fight against Fox News and their echo chamber? No matter what I say, they can say whatever the hell they want to say, and they know it. They absolutely know it. They can say whatever they want to say. For over a year, I was the #3 most spoken about person on Fox News without having done anything in 3 years. Like me personally. I have not left the country. I had not left the state of California. I had not left my house on more than, 2 or 3 occasions. So the simple fact of not being harassed. I literally sat in the garage by virtue of my choice and my desire and painted for 3 years. And then they accused me of crimes for painting.
What do you mean?
Not that I couldn't sell my paint, that it was a clear conspiracy to launder money and to curry influence by selling acrylic on canvas abstract painting by Hunter Biden.
How do you prevent a purchaser paying too much so as to ingratiate themselves with the first family?
All of a sudden, the Iranians are going to change their nuclear weapons program. I mean, it's such fucking insane bullshit. Meanwhile, these motherfuckers...
With Trump Mobile, we're going to be introducing an entire package of products.
They're selling gold telephones and sneakers and $2 billion investments in golf courses and selling tickets to the White House for investment into their meme coin.
Overnight, President Trump returning to the White House after a black tie gala for the biggest buyers of the Trump crypto coin.
The Qataris give him a jet, and the Emiratis put $2 billion into their cryptocurrency. And the Saudis are going to build a tower. And I mean, by the way, that's just what we see. And I even hate mentioning my name in that, because either I am the biggest fucking moron on the face of the earth, or like, what the fuck are we talking about? Like, what is Fox News talking about? Anybody that mentions my name in Crime Family in the same, I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, okay, believe the worst case scenario that you believe about me. Believe that I was painting paintings, not because I've been a painter my whole life, not because it literally saved my life, not because it's really meaningful to me. Believe that I was painting paintings to somehow curry favor with whomever, okay? As compared, like, if you believe the worst possible thing that they've ever said about me, what they are openly doing, they're openly doing, and nobody's batting an eye. Don Jr. is opening a club.
Scribe is how 4 million people turn processes to step-by-step guides. The hardest part of any job, I don't care where you work, is answering these same questions over. You're gonna want to see this. That's why there's Scribe. Go to scribehow.com, click Capture, do the task once, and Scribe will create a step-by-step guide you can share automatically. You ever walk someone through a giant process and know they'll forget half of it? Scribe puts everything they need to know. Instructions, pictures, videos, all on one page. So the next time they ask, you can just send the link. I know what you're thinking. They still click the wrong thing half the time. Check this out. Scribe will literally guide them through it click by click. Warning. They're gonna think you're a genius and ask you how you did it. Just say Scribe. Scribe instantly turns any workflow into a step-by-step guide, so you never have to explain it again. Go to scribehow.com and try it for free. You don't even need a credit card.
With weight loss by Hims, customers report losing over 11 pounds in just their first month with compounded GLP-1 injections. Through Hims, you can get a personalized weight loss treatment plan 100% online, prescribed by a licensed provider and delivered to your door for as little as $165 a month. Find the plan that's right for you and start seeing real results sooner. Get started today at hims.com.
been slain.
Called the Executive Club in Georgetown, in which it is promised that you will be able to rub shoulders at the cost of a $500,000 initiation fee.
The $500,000 membership fee would make it the most expensive private membership club in the country after Mar-a-Lago.
To join the club with people and decision makers in the cabinet of his father.
Now, the launch party on Saturday night included a who's who from the Trump cabinet with Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Attorney General Pam Bondi, SEC Chair Paul Atkins, Dr. Oz, and a lot of others.
What is that other than literally the sale of influence? And by the way, that's just like a side thing for them.
Yeah, and like you mentioned, that's what we know about now.
Exactly, and that's the stuff that's out in the open.
Yeah, it's stuff you can Google at this moment, at this present moment.
I don't get it. I don't get why people don't understand that it is the biggest grift that there is. And just look over here. Look at Hunter Biden, the crack addict. Look at him. Laptop. And then I get in an argument about the provenance of the laptop and what it was and where it came from and who, and these random, like, morons like the laptop repair shop owner and, the blind laptop repair shop owner that wears a...
I know you're not supposed to judge people, but that guy looks like a fucking moron.
Oh, my God.
Do you fear for their safety every day? Yeah, I don't leave the house.
Well, regardless, I mean, by the way, watch him speak, and anyway, whatever. I don't know the motivations other than I think that a lot of people that are just so in need of some kind of relevance, and so they convince themselves. I don't think that all of these people just come at this. I mean, I've watched the way in which you have communicated with and had sincere conversations with people that are crazy. And but you did it with empathy, and you do it with a open, at least in my opinion, is that the thing that I like about and I'm not blowing smoke, is that you do it with sincerity. You listen, and you give space for them to not be laughed at. And so I don't want to make fun of these people.
Well, the thing is, the reason I do that is because I have a fundamental belief that most people think they're doing the right thing. Most people out there don't wake up and say, I'm gonna repeat misinformation, cause harm to people, and make people feel like shit. Those people do exist. So I always look a level deeper. Kelly, for example, from the movie.
Yeah. To help with context, this conversation that I'm having with Hunter is in reference to my recently released independent documentary film called Dear Kelly, which chronicles the radicalization of a middle-class family man from California into a die-hard January 6 MAGA soldier. The protagonist is a man named Kelly J. Patriot, who I first met in 2021 at the White Lives Matter rally in Huntington Beach.
Kobe Bryant was assassinated by the Clintons.
You can see at least 2 men carrying Trump 2020 flags and one going head-to-head with protesters who surround him and rip his flag down.
They just try to cancel you. If they don't like your position, they just attack you and try to cancel you. Attack you and try to cancel you. Attack you and try to cancel you. Attack you and try to cancel you.
After meeting him, I took a 4-year deep dive and captured what I believe to be a powerful portrait of a family broken up by economic downturn and then reactionary political discourse that preyed on those financial hardships.
Do you guys know who Hunter Biden is? I've heard that Hunter Biden and Bill Joyner are tight. He's tied in with the White House. Look, careful. You go this way, look out for Bill Joyner.
If you want to watch Dear Kelly, it's not on YouTube or anything like that, but it's currently available on streaming for a $5.55 rental fee at www.dearkellyfilm.com. And I'm being pretty badly sued over the film right now for reasons that will come down. And if you watch it, fuck Bill Joyner. So to be transparent, I can use as many streams as I can possibly. And for those of you who are in the physical media, we also have a limited quantity of around 100 Dear Kelly DVDs here in the office right now. I'm pretty stoked about these. We just had them made, and those are actually listed for sale right now at www.dearkellyfilmdvd.bigcart. Thanks to my recently released...
Other than literally the sale of influence for them to not be laughed at. And so I don't want to make fun of these people.
Well, the thing is, the reason I do that is because I have a fundamental belief that most people think they're doing the right thing. Most people out there don't wake up and say, I'm gonna repeat misinformation, cause harm to people, and make people feel like shit. Those people do exist. So I always look a level deeper.
Kelly, for example.
Yeah.
To help with context, this conversation that I'm having with Hunter is in reference to my recently released independent documentary film called Dear Kelly, which chronicles the radicalization of a middle-class family man from California into a die-hard January 6 MAGA soldier. The protagonist is a man named Kelly J. Patriot, who I first met in 2021 at the White Lives Matter rally in Huntington Beach.
Kobe Bryant was assassinated by the Quins. Fuck!
You can see at least 2 men carrying Trump 2020 flags and one going head-to-head with protesters who surround him and rip his flag down.
They just try to cancel you. If they don't like the position, they just attack you and try to cancel you. Attack you and try to cancel you. Attack you and try to cancel you. Attack you and try to cancel you.
After meeting him, I took a 4-year deep dive and captured what I believe to be a powerful portrait of a family broken up by economic downturn and then reactionary political discourse that preyed on the country's culture.
Do you guys know who Hunter Biden is? I've heard that Hunter Biden and Bill Joyner are tight. He's tied in with the White House. Oh, careful, careful. If you go this way, look out for Bill Joyner.
If you want to watch Dear Kelly, it's not on YouTube or anything like that, but it's currently available on streaming for a $5.55 rental fee at www.dearkellyfilm.com. And I'm being pretty badly sued over the film right now for reasons that you'll come to understand if you watch it.
Fuck Bill Joyner.
So to be transparent, I can use as many streams as I can possibly get right now. And for those of you who are in the physical media, we also have a limited quantity of around 100 Dear Kelly DVDs here in the office right now. I'm pretty stoked about these. We just had them made, and those are actually listed for sale right now at www.dearkellyfilmdvd.bigcartel.com for $25.55 with like $3 or $4 shipping. It's not just a film. If you already seen the film, this could also still be beneficial to you because it has multiple deleted scenes and then a whole new director's cut with full commentary from me, Uncle Pill, and our buddy Elliot. So if you want to see that, if you want to watch the movie, it's dearkellyfilm.com, or you want to cop a DVD, I'm going to put the link to both those things in the pinned comment and the description box of this video. Anyways, when talking to Hunter about Dear Kelly, I was explaining that in addition to tracking a through line directly from the 2008 financial crisis up to January 6th, the film also explores exactly how batshit conspiracy theories begin to fester in the darkest corners of the internet, like from a human perspective, asking the question, who's telling them this shit?
Who is feeding him this information? Who is using him as a pawn to forward their own agenda? Who's taking advantage of whatever grievances or economic or social insecurities he has to make him think this way? And so I think that the evil, and you know, maybe that's kind of a simple term, I would call it the sort of nihilistic, capital-driven, self-interested crowd who just want to grow their own profile and make as much money as they can by giving people misinformation. That is where...
Looking to scale customer service without scaling headcount? Meet Ada, the only customer service
I'm more critical of. So what I was curious about when I met Kelly is, what are your media consumption habits? Where do you get your information from? You're able to understand the informational ecosystem, and then you can kind of get to the bottom of it. And so I was really curious, going back to when those contents of the laptop first leaked, I want to help the audience understand the anatomy of a smear. Because we know that there was nothing in those files that was significant enough to hold you liable for any criminal prosecutions. But how does it work? Because we know that it went from the repair shop man to Giuliani. Who were the first journalists to take that story and make it the massive story that it was?
Miranda Devine at the New York Post.
Miranda Devine is on the case in her book, Laptop from Hell.
Has made an entire cottage industry in 2 books, and her own podcast now. And she's an Australian journalist. I don't know when she came to the New York Post to work for the Murdoch Empire for, I think, in some form or fashion between Australia and the United States.
So those 2 things are interesting. So you have New York Post, which is definitely based upon ad revenue, and clicks as more of a tabloid. And then the Murdoch family is a bit of a deeper agenda with more committed investors.
Yeah.
Were they different, or were they together?
I don't know enough to know the level to which the Murdoch family involves itself in whatever choices the Post or Fox News is making about the stories that they're going to tell. I just don't know, and I don't want to speculate. But I do know this, is that it's all a business. So what I figured out really quickly is that everybody that is, by the way, really smart people that have been in the business of politics and communications and media for a long time, people that I trusted, that said that I trusted in the past for good reason, because they're smart and they care, and they track it. said, look, it's going to pass. The only way that the story continues is if you feed it by responding to it. It's so outrageous that the only way that it stays in the news and stays a thorn in your side is if you respond to it, okay? So when the laptop story came out as the October surprise, the advice was, don't respond to it, because the insanity of what they were saying about, like Miles Gow was going out there with that guy in New Zealand who took the hard drives in New Zealand and was pressing a story about how I was running sex trafficking rings in China, okay? And they were doing all this stuff. And it was so outrageous. 68 national security people came out and said this has all of the hallmarks of a Russian operation. Because it did. They didn't say it was, but it had all the hallmarks of it. And so everybody said, just don't respond, don't respond, don't respond. Well, what I figured out is this, is that it doesn't matter. Once they had a story that involved the son of the President of the United States, drugs, sex, nude pictures, mysterious figures across the globe, all in the mix of the biggest political story in all time. It was just too much of a moneymaker for them. All they had to do, if you go back and look at all these stories, it didn't matter whether it was a story about, what color shirt I was wearing that day. Every single story included a picture of me naked. Every single story, the story that you would come to with the title, and Hunter Biden heads to court today. The story of me, smoking a crack pipe in a bathtub without a shirt on, or with a blurred out woman in a hotel room. Almost every single one of them. And so they would draw people's eyes with that, and then people would click on it. And so instead of doing one story about me a day, they would do 2 stories about me a day. And then the Daily Mail picked up on it. You know how many times the Daily Mail over the course of the last 6 years has reported that I was from witnesses that I am in rehab, or that I was seen at an Airbnb, or that I had bought a home in Beverly Hills and crashed a Ferrari.
How many times? 500?
I'm really not joking. In the dozens and dozens of times.
Okay.
Yeah.
So maybe 30 times.
Yeah. It just became a moneymaker for them. It just became, I think Miranda Devine said, it's the #1 revenue generating story in the history of the paper.
Yeah, because you also, like I was saying, you have the individual egos and pockets of these journalists who are looking for a juicy story to make a name for themselves.
Yeah. And meanwhile, it became this thing. And, I really don't mean it like, woe is me. But it became this thing. Where do I start with my defense? Do I start with my defense about the fact that, the special counsel charged me? Yeah, I didn't pay my taxes on time.
Yeah.
But then I paid with penalties and interest. But then this happened, and but wait, what about the gun? And you were a crack addict, right? And when were you a crack addict? And there was cocaine found in the, oh, wait a second. You were doing business in Ukraine? What about that bioweapons lab in Ukraine? And don't you have some connections to George Soros? I mean, you can go down that chain, like I said before, from the reality-based kind of conspiracies that are trumpeted by Steve Bannon all the way down to Alex Jones.
Yeah.
And below.
I mean, I just feel like, maybe this isn't a woe is me thing, but I mean, it's just kind of sad. Like, I don't want to, make you play the victim here or anything, but you got a year plus sober. You've just married the love of your life. Things are starting to look up. And all of a sudden, all of your private messages and photos for 2 decades are now owned by the political opposition of your father and are being published by a sort of horrible ecosystem of these carnivorous journalists who are just looking to destroy and dissect every element of your private life. Do you feel like sobriety became harder after the October surprise?
You would think the answer was yes, but what it ended up doing is that it ended up, I had for the first time ever to truly make a choice in sobriety, like in full sobriety, a months of sobriety, for the first time in my life to make a choice whether to live or die. And what I mean is that I knew there would be no coming back. If I lost it then, at that moment in time, the level of shame and guilt that I would have had